Hi everyone, I am here to share with you one of my favorite things to do in the summertime after a rain, which is go out and look for mushrooms. We have been in a severe drought for a couple of years now in southern New Hampshire, and mushroom production has been way down. But we're having a very humid and wet summer, which means mushrooms are popping up everywhere. Mushrooms of every color, every size, and I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to teach you guys how to make spore prints that you can use in photography, art, or just for fun with your kids. It's just such a fun way to get into nature and really easy to do. Before we begin, I have to give a very important warning and disclaimer, which is this project is only about touching mushrooms. You never ever should put a wild mushroom in your mouth or eat it. Mycology is a very specific science, and experienced foragers are the only ones who can tell the difference between a deadly mushroom and something that can be eaten. And no wild mushroom can be eaten raw. So please, this video is meant to just be looking with your eyes and touching with your fingers. Please do not eat anything that you see. So now that that's out of the way, let's be safe and have a lot of fun. So here we are in the woods near my house, and we're ready to start this fun project. I think one of the best parts is you get out in nature and you get to experience all the sights and sounds as you're collecting your mushrooms. So what do we need to collect our mushrooms? Well, all you need is a cotton bag or a basket. I prefer a basket. I don't recommend using plastic to collect your mushrooms because we want the caps to stay in nice condition, and plastic kind of makes it too moist, and sometimes they get kind of spongy and mushy in plastic. And that's it. All you're going to need is a bag or a basket and 2 feet to walk out into the woods, and 2 eyes to look for lots of different shapes, sizes, colors, and textures. And then you're going to start picking away. So what are we looking for when we're going to make spore prints? Well, we're looking for mushrooms that have a cap that's intact, a cap that's fairly dry and in good shape. It's going to make the best spore print. We want one that's on the newer side. In other words, it hasn't been completely eaten by bugs, and it looks nice and clean. I don't want to take too many friends home. And when you turn a mushroom over, it's either going to have gills, or in this case, a little friend, or it's going to have pores. Either one is fine. We're looking for a variety of shapes, sizes, and colors. A little fun fact, not all mushroom spores are the same color. So the more colors we choose will give us a better variety of colors that will be released. And the caps aren't an indication of what color the spores will be. It's always a surprise for me. So here we are with a basket full of a big variety of mushrooms, and we're going to take them back home now and work on making some spore prints. So the first thing I do when I get home is I carefully lay out all my mushrooms so I can see what I have and I can see which ones I'm going to choose to make prints of. Then I lay out my paper. Now, if I knew my mycology better, I would know what color spores would go on which paper, but I don't, and it's fine because it's just fun to figure it all out as it goes. So I usually use black construction paper, brown craft paper, and white copy paper. Then I take a brush. You can use an old toothbrush or, a soft kitchen brush, and I just sort of get most of the dirt off, and then I cut the cap off, the stem off close to the cap because I want the caps to lay flat on the paper. So then I'm just flipping them over and putting them on top of the paper, and I'm kind of laying them out in a way that I think will allow me to get interesting prints. And as you can see, I'm showing you the difference between the gills. Some are really big, some are really small. This one has pores, which means all those different bottoms of those mushrooms are going to give a different effect on my paper. And I really don't know what they're going to be, which is kind of the exciting part of the whole thing. Some of them are going to be great and some of them aren't going to be so great. So here I have laid out my mushrooms. I like to give them space, number one, so I can put a container or a bowl or a cup on top of them, and also so that the prints don't run into each other and I can see them clearly. So why do I put containers over my mushrooms? Well, you get a better spore print, a cleaner one, if you can keep the spores in a small amount of space. And also, if you're doing this outside, which I recommend, the wind can sometimes move them around and smear your prints, so this keeps them in place. As you can see, I put these all out on my deck. So after I set up, a couple hours later, I found out there was going to be a bad thunderstorm and I was going to need to move all these inside. So I started moving my mushrooms, and you can see I'm already getting some spore prints. So it doesn't take that long. And notice these spores aren't white. They're kind of orangey, which is kind of cool. So now this is the next day, and I'm removing all my mushroom caps. And you can see the ones that didn't have cups over them kind of really diffused the spores. And then you'll be able to tell the ones that did have cups over them because they're nice and tight and together. And some of these prints are just amazing. You can really see the details of the gills. And I just basically had taken them inside, put them on cookie trays, and then put bigger containers on top of some of them. Look at the amount of spores that were released on that one. And that's a very cool print as well. Remember the one that had pores? That's that yellow. And look at those pores. They're now black, but they release that cool kind of swirling yellow effect. Different colors, different shades. Some of them are great. Some of them are not so good. Look at the awesome orange of that one. Very cool. So again, this was just overnight. And let me tell you, there's a funky smell in my it's actually my dining room table. And, ooh, that's a nice yellow one. But yeah, there's a little bit of a funky smell the next day. And honestly, the funky smell is one of the reasons why I try to do it outside on my porch or my deck. But it's really not a dirty activity, and it's just really fun to see the results. And I just open a window for a few minutes and it's all good. So as you can see, I got a huge variety of spore prints, and they're very cool. I will put each page aside. Now, these are my big losers. Not really anything to show. And then I picked a couple mushrooms that went completely south, really funky and jelly. And yeah, I'm not even going to try to remove those. Those are just, yeah, not too good. I might turn it over, but boy, does that stink. Yuck. Okay, back to the black paper, which is my go-to. That's that cool kind of coral looking mushroom. Not too many big ones going. Ooh, that's a nice one. And look at that sort of blue tint. It could have been a reaction between the paper and the mushroom, or there could have actually been a little bit of a tint in the spores that got picked up. Again, there's that coral mushroom, and it kind of has a grassy imprint that it put on there. And it's just fun to see what will be revealed as I'm peeling this one off. It's a little wet, but it's a great print. So I just continue to take off all the mushrooms and enjoy finding the little surprises that are underneath, like that cool little print there. And, pile them all up on a sheet, like a dish near where I am. And then I take those sheets and I'm going to let them dry because some of them are a little bit wet from the mushrooms. And then all of these old mushrooms go to my compost pile. And here's what we're left with, pages of prints that now I will let dry. And then I'll take my iPhone and I will individually photograph either the whole spore print or parts of the spore print. And then I'll bring them into a software program and kind of play with the levels. Now you can just do that on your iPhone with just the regular photo edit controls. It's amazing the things that you will come up with, just the little details and the colors. Talk about colors. Look at this one. I love this sort of orangey peachy one. And then this one has blues and purples in it, which I don't know where that came from. And look at the yellow spores. Those are lovely. So, it's just a really creative, fun way to make a different kind of eco print that you can use in artwork, photography, whatever you want, or just for pure exploration to show your kids what nature is capable of and to really look at the details of all the things that our world offers us. So now that you've seen how to make spore prints, let me show you what I ended up doing with mine. Okay, so here's my stack of prints, and you can kind of see with varying degrees the different prints that I got that I ended up photographing. Now, I also put them on the scanner just to see what that would look like, and it worked, but I don't like it as much as photographing it because some of the spores can get on the glass, and I just don't think the detail is there like when you're doing up-close photography. Also, I want to mention some people like to put a fixative. They take these outside and they'll buy a fixative and spray a light coating on top, and then they can actually use they can use them in their projects, in their mixed media, in their artwork. I will probably not put fixative on these, but it's definitely an option. The other thing I wanted to say is on this white sheet, you really can't tell, but in person, I can see some amazing spore prints on here, but because there isn't enough contrast, you can't see it. So some people like to do their spore prints on plastic projector sheets or plastic clear acetate. That way they can take the acetate and they can put it on top of different color pieces of paper and get different contrasts and see their different spore prints. So that's another idea for you if you're looking to do something artistic with them. So as you know, I took these prints and I photographed them, and then I ended up printing them out on paper. And I think they came out great. Now you can go in and really play with all the little imperfections. You can pull out different details. As you can see, there's like little tiny flecks of mushrooms still in my pictures, and I'm okay with that, but it's really up to you how far you want to take it. But you can see that, you can really print out some really interesting things. And then I took these papers that I've printed out, and I've created a little journal booklet, and that's because that's really kind of what I love to do. I'm a journal maker, I'm a book maker. I love to paper craft and work with all sorts of materials. So just really quickly, I'll show you a little bit about my spore little journal I made. So I used an old eye and hook, like in clothing, like a vintage piece, and I used that to sort of keep it closed. I like the little brown on it. I took a piece of cotton duck cloth and put some alcohol ink on it and aged it, and took a piece of brown craft paper for the cover. And I have a dictionary from the late 1800s, and I found Spore and just did a little mixed media with some wet, gold wax and paper. And inside I made a little journal using my Spore prints. So I took this Spore print, printed it out on light cardstock, folded it in half, so I made it small. So two, basically, I don't think I have, oh, I do have one here. So as you can see, I took the Spore prints and I made a half a sheet of paper, made it smaller so that it fit on a half a sheet of paper. I printed one side and then I ran it through and printed the other side. And then I folded it and then I folded it again. And that's how I did this sheet. And I used light cardstock for this one and ran it through my sewing machine. So you get a little pocket, and I can store things in that pocket. Other little prints or little pieces of paper, because I like to journal, so this is a great little nature journal I could take with me. I'm thinking I'm going to put maybe nature quotes in this and do a little collage and mixed media. So this is the first page, and then the second page has that a piece of the peachy print I really liked, and I added the effect of light reflections on it, and then paper cut out a really cool little tree that I thought kind of mimicked all of that. I have another little piece of textile and a vintage stamp with John Muir on it. He's such an amazing inspirational naturalist from from the United States, and I just thought, since this is all eco prints from mushrooms, it was a great fit. And then I just, did a little bit of, took my thing, which is taking little pieces of vintage ephemera and combining them with my prints to make a neat little journal that's filled with all the Spore prints that we made together. I have some stamps in here. I love this one because it's about rain and an umbrella, and that's why we have the mushrooms, because we've had so much rain. This is that Spore print from the mushroom that had pores, and I just layered it with a vellum sticker with a mushroom on it. More of that print and some more vintage ephemera. And I've left myself lots of room so that I can write or collage a little vintage playing card that I've backed with some more dictionary page and a paper leaf that I punched out. Again, that Spore print, more of the Spore print. I love the up close of the Spore print. It looks like cross hatching. And again, just adding little bits of pieces. I have a little mushroom. I have a pamphlet stitch that keeps the binding in, and I have a little mushroom charm in the center, a little bit of birch bark. And again, this is just, I took the Spore print out of the image, put it on white paper. So there's, you're only limited by your imagination what you can do with these Spore prints. So you can see I have just made these pages ready for me to do some collaging in. You can even use your Spore prints to make little specimen slides. This one isn't finished. I will definitely be adding details to that later. And it just makes for a nice little natural journal that I can work in. And it's a different way of using eco prints. Those of you who enjoy making eco prints, this is just another available technique. And that's my little book. So I hope you enjoyed learning about Spore prints and all the things that you can do with them. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon. Bye. If you liked this video or learned anything interesting, I hope you will like it and subscribe. I try to fill my channel with lots of creative ideas to work with clay, paper crafting, and any kind of nature-inspired art. Thanks for stopping by.